Okay, so now we're on to incomplete dominance versus codominance, and it's important not to get these confused. So incomplete dominance is when you have two different alleles and they blend into a new phenotype. So a good example of this is if you have a red flower and it crosses with a white flower and their offspring ends up having pink flower petals. So see, the red crossed with the white and it blended into a brand new phenotype, which is the pink petals. Now codominance, on the other hand, they have two different alleles, just like the incomplete dominant, but I always remember this one because in codominance, they coexist together. So they don't blend into a new phenotype as a blend, they both end up existing at the same time with each other. And a good example for this is if you have someone with blood type A passing along that allele of that blood type gene, crossing with someone with blood type B, you end up getting blood type AB. So now this is different than the incomplete dominance where the red and white blends together into pink. In this blood type, the A and B go together, and instead of them turning into a new phenotype that's in between A and B, they end up both existing at the same time. They coexist because they're codominant. So now you have an AB blood type. So 4 o'clock flowers have incomplete dominance. That's the blend. Incomplete is when it blends. Incomplete dominance for their petals colors red and blue. What are all the possible phenotypes? In what ratio will these phenotypes appear in the offspring of homozygous red and blue petaled flowers? And you see here when we're writing incomplete dominance, we write it a little bit differently. They both have capital C, C standing for the color, and then the actual specific allele is written in superscript up right next to it, like an exponent. So if you have petals that are red, and these are going to be homozygous parents, so they're going to have two reds crossing with a flower that has blue genotypes, then what ratio will these, or what are all the possible phenotypes? Well, if you cross red and red with blue and blue, then you're going to end up with one red and one blue. But since these are incomplete dominant, this is not going to be the phenotype. The phenotype is going to be a blend of red and blue together, which is going to end up being purple. So the phenotype from crossing red and blue together is going to be a purple petaled flower for the offspring of the two parental strains, the homozygous red and homozygous blue. Now both types, blood types A and B, are codominant, and remember codominant means they coexist. And blood type O is recessive to A and B. So we still have a recessive trait here. And so when you look at how these are written, capital I stands for all the blood that doesn't have is not type O. is not recessive type O. So you could have a no O type A, which is this one, or no O type B, which is this one, or you can just have a lowercase I, which means type O. And so that has neither A nor B on it. It's just type O because it's recessive. So the combinations, you could have I superscript A and I superscript A. That would be homozygous or homozygous A. You could have I superscript A and a recessive O. So that would be heterozygous, but it would still be A because A is dominant to O. So that silences the O out. So you're going to end up having blood type A. Or you could have a homozygous B, an I superscript B and I superscript B for the genotype, and so that would result in having blood type B. Or you could have an I superscript B and a recessive O here, this lowercase I, but this dominant B silences out that O, and so you would still end up having type B blood. Or both of these alleles in the genotype could both be for recessive O, and that's when you actually get blood type O. Or you could have one dominant A and one dominant B, and since these are both dominant, they end up blending together, or they end up morphing together in a codominance of blood type A and B. So there are 4 siblings who each have a different blood type. Their mom is type B, so the mom is type B, and their dad is type A. What are the genotypes of the parents? So if there are 4 siblings who each have a different blood type, so that's going to be 4 different blood types. So what are the 4 blood types? You could have type A, you could have type B, you could have type AB, or you could have type O. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are going to be the children. And each child, there's 4 children, and each child has one of these blood types. So what are the genotypes of the parents? So if you have a child that has blood type A, then that's going to, A is going to be either homozygous A or a dominant A next to a recessive O, because that dominant A cancels out that recessive O. Now for blood type B, you could have homozygous B, or you could have dominant B with a recessive O. Or AB, you're going to have one dominant A and one dominant B together. Or O is just going to be 2 recessive lowercase i's together. So what are the genotypes of the parents? Well, if you have one child that is both recessive for type O, then doesn't that mean that one of each parents have to have contributed a lowercase I? So we know that both mom and dad each have at least one lowercase I in their genotype. And if you have a child also with the AB blood type, then doesn't that mean that one of the parents have had to have contributed the dominant A, and the other parent must have contributed the dominant B? So we're going to give mom the A and dad the B. So let's do a Punnett square with these values and just to check our work and make sure that this is going to be the answer for what the genotypes of the parents are. So if we have mom, then we're going to have a dominant A for one and a lowercase I for the other one. For the dad, we're going to have a dominant B and a lowercase I for the other one. So if we combine these two together, we're going to have, for moms, we're going to have a dominant A going all the way across. And down here, we're going to have a lowercase I going all the way across. And then for dad, we're going to have a dominant B going down. And for the other one, we'll have a lowercase I going down. So now we can look and make sure that this is what we get for the offspring, that the offspring has one of each. Out of 4 children, they each have one of each blood type. So this I dominant A and I dominant B, that is going to equal an AB blood type because they're going to coexist, because A and B is codominant to each other. So we're going to have an AB blood type. And then over here, we have a dominant A and a recessive O. So the dominant A is going to cancel that little I out. So you're just going to end up having blood type A. And then down here, we have a dominant B canceling out the lowercase I. So that's just going to give us a blood type of B. And then down here, we have 2 homozygous recessive type O's. So that's going to give us a type O blood. And are these the children we're looking for? Yes, they are. It's one of each of 4 blood types. So the mom is going to have a dominant A and a recessive O, and the dad is going to have a dominant B and a recessive O.